Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call the Moab City Council meeting to order on April 14th, 2026 at 5:32 p.m. And Caitlin, would you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to ask that we have a motion right off the bat to amend the agenda. We are going to move item 6.2, which is the public hearing and consideration of adopting the tentative budget for 26-27 till after item 6.8 and 6.9. Those three items are public hearings that are part of the tentative budget, so we thought it'd probably be better to approve the tentative budget after we approve those three items. So if I could have a motion to move item 6.2 and 6.3 to be considered after 6.8 and 6.9.
I'll motion to move items 6.2 and 6.3 for consideration after 6.8 and 6.9.
Thanks, Miles. And do I have a second? Second by Colin. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. And our first item is the completion of our budget workshop. And tonight we are going to review the Parks and Recreation budget and the community contribution.
Progress.
Sorry. All right.
Who did that to my computer?
Did I call the meeting to order too soon? Oh, okay, sorry.
You're good.
Okay. So anyway, budget workshop is first. Review of the Parks and Rec, community contributions and vehicle budgets. And then we feel there's probably going to be a bigger discussion on the capital improvement plan. So we're going to do that last. So Michael, starting up with you.
Okay, so we'll ask Pat and Danny to come up and we'll start with recreation. Then we'll do community contributions right after that, vehicles and CIP.
Right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to share my screen really quickly here.
I mean, this one's more fun.
Here we go.
You're gonna want to be a little guy.
Yep. Get the widget out of there. I think you know how to use a computer until you have to do it in front of other people.
Yeah.
Always have that.
Right there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you, Council, Mayor, Michael. It's the PRT budget for fiscal year 26-27. Pretty straightforward, should be pretty short and sweet, but I'm obviously here for questions at the end. So here's some historicals. The reason for the 2025 increase there is that budget still had the Parks M&O under it. So you can see a slight increase requested, 7% overall from last year. And Danny.
So this is just a reminder sheet for salaries and benefits. What our expectations were: 7% for salaries, 10% for benefits. That includes the 2.8% COLA.
Yes, that's what we're proposing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
what we're proposing. So just keep that in mind as you go through these next couple slides that have the percentages in them. So salaries went up 6.45%. So right is in line as expected. As far as that, salaries did go up quite a bit, and that was due to some turnover and changes in employee benefit status. Just to give a little bit more on this one, when we have in this specific instance, just so you guys can kind of see how big it can get really quick. We had someone who leave that was on single insurance. And when we replaced that position, the position that was coming in came in as a family. So there's a big gap between single and family when it comes to cost for benefits. So when you see big changes like that, that's usually the case.
And that's in a two full-time position department. So that
Yeah.
seems, that's even more inflated, that number.
Yeah.
For that reason. Okay, so some notable changes for sports this year. We moved the utility cost back to parks that was couched under Center Street Gym. So that 14,000 is moving out of that budget. And then we are requesting 30,000 for some necessary upkeep and maintenance, some deferred maintenance of that building. That was obviously built in 1965. That's long overdue. And so you can kind of see the numbers there, and that's one of the large, that 30,000 would cover painting, on the interior of the building and or resurfacing. Okay.
So with the arts, here we're 10.76, so it's definitely above the expected 7%. We did have a couple off-cycle salary adjustments during the year for this department. And then benefits again are slightly above, and it's tied to those salary adjustments.
Okay, in the arts department, that's pretty much status quo. We did have a few new things. The subscription line, looking at getting some grant tracking software, reporting software to help them with some of the RAP tax stuff, as well as some of the other grants that they manage there in that division. And then with just some housekeeping items, we moved the RAP tax community contribution from this into the RAP tax fund. So there's a small change there.
And then the aquatic center is basically right on track with what we expected, slightly below in salaries and slightly above in benefits. You're just some benefit status changes, so they're right where they need to be.
Okay, and then in aquatics, this past year, we brought the Wibbit Wednesdays back, which were a really popular attraction. We have an interest in increasing that offering by purchasing some new modules and expanding that. So just wanted to highlight something that's really visible and popular within the community there, and kind of an opportunity. So that is aquatics. Something else to mention in aquatics that we're excited about the job that everybody's done, internally, the management. We have been able to handle a lot of kind of larger deferred maintenance projects in-house this past 6 months or so. And that's been a really positive change, from a budget standpoint. But we still have a lot of big ticket items coming down the pipeline. So overall, the 23 funds shown a slight overall increase over 2026. A lot of that, like Danny had touched on, is due to some changes in status for some of those full-time employees. Other than that, a lot of the bigger projects are going to be CIP type stuff and RAP. So any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if the maintenance for the Center Street Gym, are those things that could be paid out of the RAP tax?
They potentially could. I think we actually have a budget of $250,000 for HVAC for the Center Street Gym. We are using RAP tax at this point to pay for the design of the Center Street Ballpark and for the $450,000 for the replacement of the water feature at the pool.
Oh, okay.
So I think those are probably things that people will look at more, that they'll see and experience more than the HVAC potentially, or painting the floor at the gym, but definitely we could use it. I don't think there's a necessity at this point.
Okay, that's what, I guess that was my next question, if there's a necessity to fund it from that source. If there's not, it's great. But,
Okay.
I guess my related clarifying question is whether that maintenance is coming out of your budget or out of CIP.
I think initially we were looking at from operations budget, but that's
The 30,000 for the floor is maintenance, so it's coming from CIP. Operations. The 250,000 for the HVAC is an upgrade, so that'll be CIP.
Okay. I guess maybe I missed that. Where is that in Parks budget?
Your floor paint.
Yeah.
Oh, it should be in the Center Street Gym professional and technical.
Okay, that was.
That's that 30, yeah. Because that's a contracted job.
Okay. Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions, was the 30,000
Yeah.
on technical. I guess I'm wondering if that's the right classification for it. Does that make sense? And then also just noticing, it looks like, but wanting to clarify all of the smaller programs like soccer, summer camp, all of those have been combined into one.
Yeah, so we had an interest in, so as the program grew over the years, we kept adding programs and activities, and they got their own budget, they got their own GL account. And now we're sort of consolidating. So for instance, spring soccer or youth soccer had 3 different GLs, one for spring, one for fall, one for winter, essentially for indoor soccer. And so we want to just get that all under one, just for housekeeping purposes and to streamline things, because it is all truly youth soccer. But I think there's just an interest in now consolidating so that it's clearer and easier to manage those GLs.
The other thing we're looking at doing also is instead of hiring for each season, what we'd like to do is hire just officials. Cause right now we'll hire for like an umpire that then will go to a referee, you know, kind of bounce around. And so we're going to try to do just like officials that can work multiple different seasons and keep them on as part-time throughout the year. And so that made a lot more sense having it all in one line item also.
And we're looking at, you know, recreate 2 positions, essentially recreation officials and then recreation support staff, instead of transitioning from one job code to the next from season to season, because we do have a lot of crossover and people who essentially work year round, but then are having to transition to being paid for a different year.
Any other questions?
So Pat, I'm seeing pretty somewhat significant increases in revenues, and it looks like it's coming from fees, but I'm not seeing changes in the master fee schedule. What's informing that, or are we looking at an increase in visitation? Are we looking at I mean, what are the other
So
are
yeah,
fees increase?
visitation did increase. Our fees have not at the aquatic center, you know,
Okay.
memberships and daily entrance fees. But visitation did, we pulled those numbers by, I think, 40,000. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to pull those. I
Big
don't have
number,
that
yeah.
report in front of me, but also just enrollment in our programs is steadily sort of increasing in the youth programs as well.
Great.
So that, I think it's just that accounts for probably what you're seeing.
Okay.
It's just steady across the board increases, most likely.
And we also expect the pool to be very popular this year.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent point. Yep.
yeah,
Because it's gonna be hot.
and dry.
And when is that the new water feature?
There's no Ken's Lake either. That's true.
That won't be seen this summer. Well,
That's correct. Yeah. So actually our maintenance crews have been working really hard to refurbish the fiberglass rock. And
Okay.
if you have a chance to go by, it's looking really good. So
Hmm.
we're able to in-house get that fixed up for one more year. So they did an excellent job there. And then we're looking at, as soon as we close in October, starting to get the process rolling with Michael said that 450,000 to reline the outdoor leisure pool and put in the new water feature. That's more sustainable
Yeah,
and isn't fiberglass.
it became a bigger project because of the liner. We have to redo the
Got it.
entire liner for that outdoor pool.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Do you expect any disruption in use of the outdoor pool?
No, we're scheduling it so that we limit or eliminate interruptions in service. So we're looking at October, once we actually close the outdoor pool,
Got it.
mobilizing crews as quickly as we can so that the work will be done and not cause an interruption and reopening for the next season.
Oh, great, good.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Excuse me.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it. Thank
Thank
Patrick
you.
and Danny.
Appreciate it.
All right, and I think, Michael, you're gonna do the rest.
I am. Okay. There. Right, so I'll do community contributions first. This was missed in the general fund. It's just a couple of items that should go really quick, and then we'll jump into CIP. And I've highlighted, I split everything up into sections in CIP and highlighted one project from each section, but we can talk about anything on there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on those. Okay. So this is the community contributions. This budget doesn't have any personnel. And basically it's exactly the same as it was last year. So just looking at keeping those contributions exactly the same as they were the previous year. I do want to note that we have established contracts with all of these service providers, and they are all providing services that are in line with city council goals and policies. On the bottom, you might notice the Grand County contribution, 7-4, that's July 4th. And that's that's contribution for fireworks. And the 5 above that, those are our typical community contributions. And just for the public, those groups provide services that the city of Moab believes in, the city council believes in, and wants to see continue within the community, but we do not provide them ourselves. So every one of those provides a good service to our community, and we're supporting them. Any questions on that?
Have we heard from the county, like as far as like the July 4th, like is there,
Whether it's gonna be a drone show or a fire?
well, just like what they're like,
No.
if
I
they're
guess if we're gonna
discussed?
still have the parade and the event out at the OSTA.
Yeah, okay,
I mean, I think that's like a feature now. That's the impression I'm getting.
yeah.
It's so popular.
Yeah, I guess, my questions on this, obviously contracts being established is great. I think we've talked a couple times about creating a policy on this.
Yeah,
So I think contracts was a piece of that. I think also I've long wondered why it is these amounts for different organizations. And so I think one of my questions is coming back again to the policy of deciding how we're allocating these and why. I think either between this or within the housing budget, which we can talk about later when we get to tentative budget, but would also like to advocate for council providing $10,000 to the housing task force as well, which I think is a conversation that would come with that presentation. But since we're talking about the budget, they were maybe going to present today or this week, is something else I'd like to advocate for. Definitely want to continue supporting these, so continuing the same, but that is something that I'll bring up again, is figuring out policy for that.
yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to actually publish the list of policies, get those in front of council and have you prioritize those, because we've got a lot.
Right.
And it would actually help with the flow, help me know which ones to get after first and everything. So
I
I'm
do
glad
know
you brought it up.
Yeah, this is one that we've kind of asked for since we started doing this.
Right.
So I would say this is a priority. Just for clarifications for others that want to feel like they need to ask. For example, the housing contribution. We need to make clear exactly what the purpose of this
Sure.
contribution is. Oh,
Okay.
any other questions?
Nope.
All right.
Moving right along. I just want to give an overview of the CIP, sorry. CIP budget and what it looks like. We have the general CIP, which is,
Did you do vehicles?
I'm gonna do that in
As part of
right
this?
in here,
Okay.
yes. So we have general CIP, which is all of the projects that are roads, things like that. And then we also will put different projects into there that might be water and sewer as well, but they actually are first and foremost a road project or something like that. So there's money that goes from water, sewer, stormwater into the general a lot of times for those projects. They have water, sewer, stormwater. The vehicle is included in here. It's not technically a capital budget, but it is capital. They are capital expenses. Cars are, and vehicles are considered capital expenses. And I'm not gonna, basically the budget is going down this year. The vehicle budget is, last year was up a little bit. I think we're gonna spend right up to that $450,000. I'm talking about this year, sorry, because it's the first year that it had existed. The actual is at 290 right now. The most of the money in this budget goes to pay leases. So those are paid yearly and they're due different times, things like that. And then some of the money from the vehicle budget is for upfitting. So last year, or this year that we're in now, we had several new police cars that were upfitted, and there was quite a big expense for that. And next year we're not going to see quite as big of an expense, but we are still going to have all of the lease payments that we have this year, and we will be switching out a few vehicles as well. One of the resources that comes into the vehicle fund is money from the vehicles that we sell as well. Now, there's also another factor here that's a resource that I'm not really ready to talk about yet, but there is some other resources that could be coming to the city that could affect the vehicle budget as well. And so I'll be bringing those up at the next meeting and seeing how those shake out. Debt service is the other one I grouped into this. Debt service is where we pay for all of the bonds. There are other areas. This isn't the total amount of bonds that we pay, but I think water and sewer paying some out of their own funds. Is that right? Oh, it's okay. Water and sewer are paying some out of their own funds for their bonds. Debt service, these are things like Cane Creek, stuff like that. And then the housing fund, I believe, was in here as well, which is the Walnut Lane. And that's why you see a decrease in the amount that we're budgeting in the debt service because we paid off Walnut Lane. So I just wanted to quickly show just an overview of what all the budgets were, and then get down into a discussion on each one of these. And I split these up, how they're split up in the budget. So first we'll talk about streets. Streets is under the general CIP, and we'll continue to do the sidewalk project that it's already been budgeted for. So a lot of this is a rollover going forward, but we've also added, I believe, a $200,000 amount to continue sidewalks, smaller portions of sidewalks throughout the city. And Levi's been working with engineering on getting some different contracting options out there. So we have some smaller contractors who can do smaller jobs, which means smaller bonds and maybe get a few smaller projects done here and there quicker. So that'll continue. 100 West is a design only. That would be one of our projects that we're trying to move forward for shovel ready. That would be a larger project when it comes down to construction. The design will include all subsurface utilities as well. So we will be looking at that, which means water and sewer and stormwater are also paying into this. The one that I wanted to focus on for a second is the bridge improvements. Now, it's at $10 million right now. I think we've jumped from 10 to $12 million as far as the budget for this goes. A lot of this budget is contingent upon money coming in from resources from the federal government and potential other grant sources that could come from state and things like that. Technically, at this moment, or physically at this moment, we do not have the resources to cover that entire bridge by itself. Even splitting it up from stormwater, streets, and the general fund, there's not enough to cover the entire bridge right now. So the design will continue on that, and we are still working with our consultants and with Senator Curtis's office and Congressman Kennedy's office, trying to get resources to come in to help pay for this bridge. So we'll keep it in the CIP. That's my proposal anyways. Keep it in the CIP if it comes in, or at least to show if Congressman or the Senator want to see our budget and see that we're serious about this project, they'll at least see that it's in here. And then moving on, 100 North is a micro seal. That's just finishing the work that we had been doing with downtown dispersed parking and then filling in sidewalks that are not filled in on 100 North. That's something that could be done in the coming fiscal year. 400 East is a design project, another large project that would be hopefully get ready for shovel ready, so we can look for resources for that, or at least put the money together to get that project done in a future year. And then the asphalt overlay project is similar to what we did with Mill Creek. And we had done a lot of work underground on Mill Creek, and we were going to do, never mind. We did do a chip seal, and then we went back and did a mill and fill. And that's something that this money could be used for. I'm not proposing today what street that is. That's something that we would be looking at with Public Works and utilities, because wherever we do one of these projects, we want to make sure that it's in a place where we're not going to have to dig up the road again for water and sewer right away. So I put some money in there as kind of an earmark so that we can do some major maintenance on a street. It just hasn't been identified which street yet. Any questions on this section?
I had a question. I know that maybe it might be a question for Levi or whatnot, but seems like there's a lot of places in town where they did like water work, or something where there's, like 4 foot by 4 foot chunks of asphalt that just have dirt in them and stuff. Would that be a CIP project to go in and put asphalt in those, or would that just be kind of a general coming out of maintenance to do that? Because it's something that I know that like Mountain View people are kind of have talked about that, and I know there's some around town that need to be done that I'm wondering if that's.
Yeah, so I'll just preface this with, there is one situation I know of in town where it's a developer's responsibility to fix a problem. And we are actually withholding C of O on that until they do fix that problem, because it is a street cut where it wasn't matched appropriately.
Right.
So that's one of them, but the other ones, I asked Levi to come up because my question is, some of those we can do in-house, is that right?
So can you reiterate your question, please?
Yeah, I don't know if you like, I've noticed in like people in Mountain View have kind of commented, there's a few sections where there's like 4 foot by 4 foot section of asphalt that's missing, where like, it looks like maybe like a water valve was replaced, or some underground was taken care of, or sewer or whatever. And some of them have been around for a while, and I'm just wondering if there's a plan to fix those, and if the plan needs to be part of the CIP to go in and patch those over. But I guess if a lot of those are property owners' responsibility, then maybe that's not the case, that it's not our responsibility to fix it.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. There's a couple of them that are the responsibility of developers that have and made improvements to property around town. There is a handful that are from numerous repairs, whether it's a utility outside of our responsibility, or it's water and sewer. And we have a plan to get to those soon. Actually, we went through some growing pains in that department, and we're getting personnel trained up on it. And the smaller ones, 10 by 12, 15 by 15, those they're easily done in-house.
So they don't need to be,
Operations.
they don't need to be,
Operations, yeah.
they don't need to be
operations.
budgeted.
Right.
For like, okay,
Right.
that was my question.
They would be in the roads fund.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, it'll come out of the maintenance class.
Now, some of those are paid for by utilities as well. No? Not even-
No,
Okay,
no, that tradition hasn't been done that way historically.
so roads pays for the patches after utility repairs.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all the city, so.
So this 672 special project contract sidewalks, that's part of our sidewalk plan.
That's just
that's like
active
a-
transportation.
That's just a specific for our sidewalk. And what you're talking about is just part of your normal work.
Just small maintenance and repairs, yeah. But we do have a larger intersection, or a larger patch at an intersection, Dogwood and Mountain View.
Yeah.
It was destroyed in the storm last year, and one of the storms. We're waiting for a quote for that. We had one last year, but it doesn't qualify anymore. So we're waiting for an updated quote. And it surpasses what we budgeted for, so it's gonna be something either we'll do in-house in patches, or smaller amounts, or we'll revise the budget.
But to get to the bottom of this, though, is we should have the resources to do those fixes.
Okay, yeah, that's, yeah.
Yes.
And just to clarify, that's a hot patch that we can do in-house, or that's a cold patch?
Cold patch. We don't have the
Okay.
equipment to do a hot patch.
We do pay LeGrand Johnson to do some of our larger ones, even though they're small. We did one on Walker recently.
Yep.
And turned out well.
Just because cold patches don't fully seal and are generally
No,
a shorter
they're-
lifespan than a hot patch.
They should be a smaller.
Yep.
It also sounds like some of the, well, folks, the contractors able to do hot patches are protective of that resource in town.
True, yeah.
Don't want to share that ability with the city.
That is correct. We can, we're able to get cold asphalt in small quantities. We're not able to get large quantities and resell, but we also don't have the lay down equipment to do hot
To do a
patch.
hot patch. Yep, just clarifying.
Yeah.
Anything else on the CIP?
Yeah, so on 672, like you brought up, I thought you said that like we'd budgeted 200,000 for sidewalks for next year.
More.
Let me take a look.
200 more from
Yeah,
this year's
more.
budget. Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. That's what I
So
was gonna
we're
ask.
rolling over a big portion of the project that you approved this year because they won't finish the entire project this year. We know that. So we're rolling over 300,000 or so, and the rest of it is new sidewalks.
But of that 300,000, it's already allocated.
It's
into
allocated,
into a
yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else? Right,
Okay, next, we got quite a few to go through here. So I won't, I'll kind of stick to just the high level one. And then if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the other ones. But Center Street Gym, I brought that up a little bit earlier. That's the HVAC. That's $250,000. This is something that, as far as from what I understand, they've been waiting on for a long time. There's been a lot of Band-Aid fixes, and this just needs to get fixed. So that's budgeted in this one. The one above it, municipal general improvements. There's a lot of things that go into that one. There's the elevator. There's some remodeling within City Hall. There's replacing these chairs in here, things like that. There's quite a few there. I think there's 6 categories. But that's what that is. And any questions on these?
What's bike structure?
Bike structure is a project from this year. It might actually not need to go into next year. I think it's just the electric vehicle.
Yes, so for next year, it's just the electric vehicle charging, so the vehicle is running on, like, it's plugging into the wall right now, so we're gonna get it a better charger. And install it here, which requires an electrical upgrade.
So we have an electric vehicle for parks.
Mhm.
And what she's saying is it plugs into the wall right now in the building. This would actually provide a electric vehicle service area for that, and it can be expanded eventually.
It would be available.
Right, it'll be available to other vehicles as well. The bike structure is actually in-house and will be installed soon, and that's going to be that's on the side of the building here.
Gonna be in the museum gallery, and they're installing it at the end of this month.
Would have been good today, actually. So because this is an established line item GL, it still says bike structure, but it's actually just the EVSE at this point.
And what's the dark sky rollover?
I believe that is just
Anything that's left in the buildings, we've been all like, so it would be like any lights that are left on any of the city buildings that are not compliant at this point. I don't expect it to be that high, but it would cover anything that's remaining.
getting us into compliance. So I was about to say, I think that is exactly what Alexi is going to say that is. So any other questions on that? The ball field is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. Council just approved that recently. And it's a little bit more than the contract amount. And that's because there is a $25,000 amount in there for things that just have to be improved, like the drinking fountain and a couple of other things. And by the way, the drinking fountain does work, and it has only ever been down for about a week, I think. But if you've ever seen it, it's just a pipe sticking out of the ground. So there's some work that needs to be done on that. And then the rest of it is just in case any other fixes need to be done that just have to be done before the construction gets done in order to keep the fields open. Okay. All right, next we have parks. The big one in here is not simply just a parks project, but it has to fit somewhere. The Main Street to 500 West corridor on Mill Creek is an area that is being redesigned right now to address stormwater, active transportation, and parks. So it fits in all of those categories. The design has been looking at kind of concepts to this point. And we do have some concepts that we are going to be sharing with the public soon at an open house. And we've been talking to the landowners down in the area about. But the next step in that process will be designing the construction that needs to take place down there. And again, it's not just a park, it's a stormwater facility, and it's also an active transportation facility with trails and things like that. So that money that you see there would be for the design, again, trying to get a shovel-ready project ready so that we can be ready to look for the resources to do a lot of these projects in the coming years.
You have Lions Park River Access. Has that grant been awarded already?
It has. In fact, we've had this grant for
A couple of years.
3 years, I think.
Maybe it's ready to go out for an RFP imminently.
But this is a group, this is not just the city's project. This is several partners are involved in this.
This is a grant through
Here,
the.
come up here.
Vision- Thank you.
I was trying to get away with it.
Yeah,
It's hard to pick up that
Yeah.
line.
yeah, that makes sense. It's a $200,000 grant that we have with the Division of Outdoor Recreation. And it is sort of a offshoot of the planning that went into the boat ramp that's there now in the county. So it's just a scoping study to look at non-motorized access through the side of Lions Park that's managed by the city currently, but it will involve a lot of partners because it's touching the river.
Right.
One thing that we talked about this winter was increasing the power. We're running power over to the bridge. Is that
It could
part of
be,
anything?
yeah, we haven't even started it yet. So that could be something that we could include in the information that we would like them to gather as part of the planning.
Yeah, because I think like we had talked about that. I think Levi, I think we part of that discussion, yeah, and stuff of trying to.
We budget for that in the parks budget and professional and technical.
Oh,
Create the power for the poles, so we can have more outlets for future.
perfect. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like Christmas light.
Why are you trying to get rid of the generator?
Yeah.
Yeah, full-time job, keeping that thing full.
That's really expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Anything else on the parks?
I guess I'm wondering for art in public places, if that is CIP or if that should be community contributions or if that should be in arts.
Wrap.
It could be in RAP. It could still be in here as well. RAP has its own fund now, so it could actually be transferred into RAP because it's not specifically, I think it does qualify as CIP, but it could also be under like professional and technical or something like that in the RAP tax.
Yeah.
So that's just if that's a preference, we can make that change if the council wants to do that.
Is Swanee Park the bathroom?
No.
No, that I believe that is looking at that portion right there is actually looking at a master plan for the park so that we can get the entire thing planned out and some minor improvements to the park, but most of it is for planning.
We put in an application to CDBG for the bathrooms and we didn't get that grant because there's so many applicants and we've gotten a lot of grants from CDBG that I think we were just lower on the list this time. Doesn't mean we can't go back to them, but so that's no longer.
And
Yeah.
in order of operations, I would love to see the master plan, the design come out before we invest in the bathrooms in case we need
Sure.
to tweak that a little bit to put a massive skate park.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Where's the skate park line item?
For Jason.
648 skate park.
That's actually the big thing is stormwater skate park. Bathrooms are super expensive. Most likely it's not going to move, but
Okay.
it's good to do the research before we invest too much in there. Yeah, so that's what it's for. There are improvements that do need to be made that might be more minor, that aren't just the too big $250,000 improvement, but can improve things drastically down there for say $5,000. And part of this money could go to things like that.
In terms of the arts in public place and the RAP, I think we wanna, the RAP, we've got some big recreational projects coming up and if there's a other place where we could stick that. I think we should try to build up our wrap,
Okay.
or that's my opinion. You guys make the final call, but
And in that case, it would just stay here the way that it is now.
that's what I would suggest.
Okay, I just want to be clear that I do think it should be wrap. And I guess I asked the question because I think once you establish the locations, at this point, we're just changing out, we're bringing in new art. So it's kind of maintenance of existing, like it is kind of capital, but it's not quite capital in that we're creating like a totally new thing. Which is why I
Okay.
asked. So I'm not gonna fight on that one, but
I'm not even, whatever. You decide, Michael.
We could also put it in parks. It doesn't need to come out of RAP. It could come out of parks and still be operations.
yeah,
So we'll take a closer look at that, because if it is just maintenance and paying for loaning, putting the art in and it's on loan, then it might actually be operations, not CIP. So
It's a program though that I think is great.
Yeah.
For the town. But yeah, we remember today we're just approving the tentative. It gives Michael the opportunity to finalize the budget when we approve that, I believe in June. So we have some time to negotiate where things go.
it'll be in May, but
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
it's okay. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, like Hans said, I just want to publicly say that we're working towards a skate park for all the suckers out there, you know?
Get it right.
I got a call about it today.
You did?
Yeah.
Hey, what about that skate park?
So for the Southern Utah concrete athletes, we're working towards getting them a skate park.
Now there is another, I just changed the screen because there's another thing that could be related to Swanee in here, and that's the one below the one I highlighted, which is ADA upgrades to park and rec facilities. There, and this is the tough one because of the master plan. We've talked about this, Pat and I have talked about this, and I've talked to several people about this. There is no ADA access to the bathrooms. And yes, we do want to do a master plan and everything, but you know, the actual implementation of the master plan could be many years away. So this isn't specific to Swanee, but there is money in here to improve ADA within any of the parks, and all of the parks need it. So the one that I highlighted though is the general building improvements at the AMRAC. And again, this is a one project, but it's not just AMRAC. And I do think we will change the title of this one because it does carry over into some of the other buildings like the wastewater treatment plant and this building as well. And some of the things that it will go, this is McKinstry doing the evaluation of the AMRAC, and they looked at the structural, they looked at the mechanical and all the different things we need to do, including more work at this building with the geothermal wells and things like that, and then controls for a lot of the equipment that we use, HVAC, the different things like that at the different buildings. So altogether, it's about 1.2 with a little bit of contingency in there. We do believe that, well, most of this will be at the AMRAC. We do believe that this is an important project because it will make drastic changes at the AMRAC that I think will be, that are necessary, but will also be very much appreciated and will add to the longevity of the AMRAC.
And it's also energy efficient.
Yes, yes,
So it'll save us money in the long run.
that's right. It is. That is their shtick. So that it definitely has to do with energy efficiency as well. And before this project is awarded, I think we'll be bringing this back. I don't think we brought it to council yet.
No.
Okay, so this will come to council, so you'll be able to see the entire scope of the project. Okay. And then there's the outdoor water feature replacement. And remember, that's not just the feature, it's also the lining, because that big rock sits right on top of the liner and the whole thing has to be replaced.
So is that tentatively planned for like winter 27, 28?
Believe so. This is the last season that we would have the rock in, so it'd be after this season, so it'd be winter 26, 27.
Yeah, because you
Okay,
had said they were gonna start it in October.
26, okay.
Okay, so next we have just miscellaneous, and this will end the general CIP. So the Pack Creek Footbridge, that is also a grant. We're trying to get that one done. That has been taking a while. Property acquisition, this is, my recommendation is that we keep a fund for property acquisition in case trails, or some property comes up where we have a trail connection where we can get, or there's something that we need to act on quickly. We just need council's approval. It's already budgeted. We don't have to amend the budget. So it's just a practice, but it's $200,000. It's not a lot. Most of the time that's going to be purchasing easements, not actual property. Golf course capital improvement, that is, part of that would be the work that we're planning on doing with the golf course, with the master planning that they'd like to do. And then this is also the money, according to the new lease, which isn't signed yet, but is supposed to be signed imminently, that would allow them to do tenant improvements at the golf course and pay the city back over time. And then the one that I highlighted is IT, other equipment. I believe that is server replacement. And then the transfer to fleet fund is the amount that goes to vehicles. And like I said, between now and the final budget, I do believe that is going to change. Several factors to consider there that have just come to light. So that is the total of the general CIP. And then I wanted to talk about where the money comes from. So these are all of the places where we're getting money from. We're getting several different transfers in from other funds. We've got the grant proceeds, and I'm mixing grants with federal allocations, which technically aren't grants, but they are money that's coming to us as a grant to do a project. PTIF interest is just interest on the money that we have in our accounts. That actually could be quite a bit more depending on how many projects we actually do in a year and how much money is sitting in the accounts. And then you can see the transfers from the other funds and how much those are. We'll talk about the stormwater, the water, sewer, and stormwater fund in just a second. I'll get into a little bit more detail about those dollar amounts. And then the capital projects fund balance carry forward. That's just the amount of money that's in the fund right now that's not going to be spent this year. That'll be rolled over to next year. So this is just a pie chart that shows you where the money's coming from, and you can't read it too well, I can see, but the big blue is transfers from other funds. And that's generally transfers from water, sewer, and stormwater, and the roads fund. But mainly water, those three, water, sewer, and stormwater. And then property tax is about 20% of the revenue that comes into CIP. And as you know, 100% of the revenue from property tax gets transferred into the CIP. And then we have fund rollover grants, and then the interest is almost unmeasurable. So that is it for the general CIP. Any questions?
Yeah, do you want to talk about the bonding?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
You all remember at our strategic plan, we talked about doing a $20 million bond and identify projects that we could fold into that to kind of make sure that the property tax is spent the way that we envisioned it to be. And we've got a little more work to do before we can do that.
Yeah. So all of these shovel-ready projects that I'm talking about, where I want to get these plans done so that we can start looking for the funds to do the projects, that's what I'm talking about. It's not specific just to a bond, but it could be grants and other things as well. But in order to bond, we're really going to need a good understanding of how much money we need. And the banks are going to want to see the projects, what the projects are, how far they are along in design, and what the engineer's estimates of what the costs are going to be. So I think we're still about a year away from a bond. But I do think in order to accomplish the projects that we're looking at up here, we definitely are looking at a general bond or a bond that would come out of our general fund in the next year or two in order to finish those projects.
I do have a question, going back to your presentation before we get away from CIP. On one of your slides, I just want to clarify what was accurate or not, but you had sewer being 8.95 million. Was that typo?
I'm gonna get to sewer right now, actually. If that's, yes, I don't think it is actually, but let me bring it back up.
Right. I wasn't sure. I was waiting. I just don't want to lose it.
Definitely don't want to lose it. Okay, so let's get back into this, unless there's any other questions on the general CIP. And we'll go over this in the tentative budget presentation too, just very short presentation though. Okay, so let's go to sewer first, since that was asked. Okay, so sewer. Yes, 8.95 million. The majority of that is because of the outfall project. So that's $7 million. That's a project that's been on the books for a long time. It's something that needs to get done. There were other resources that were potentially going to pay for that. And there was a different cost to this at one time as well. But we were going through someone else's property to get to the river with the outfall line. And they get to dictate some things. And some of those things have to do with construction processes. And so this is the amount that we think is appropriate to budget for this. This will reduce the amount of money in the fund balance for sewer by about half. So there will be about $8 million left after this project. This project is not ready to go out for construction or anything like that yet, but we have been working for a while on doing due diligence, things like that. And we do need to have this in there because we do need to move this forward. But that's the majority of that 8.95 million. The rest, the Cane Creek Sewer Lift Station, that's an if Blue Bison develops and they're going to put a lift station there, we're going to pay to have it upgraded so it can handle more. And so it'd be above and beyond what their requirements are. SCADA's already approved. The master plan is something that has to happen going forward. We'd be looking at project development for future bonds and a rate study for fees.
The outfall was that originally, did we get a
Yes,
grant from the NRC for that?
we got it from the Bureau of Reclamation.
But then it's gone away.
It went away this year.
It's off the books of
It's
this
off,
year.
yeah,
Okay.
and that was a much bigger project. That was like
26, 28, yeah.
million, and it was to create
Tertiary
a whole
water.
new
Yeah.
wastewater treatment plant so we could flood the sewers.
Yeah.
And this is just the outfall line.
Okay, so any other questions on sewer? We just have two more to go through, so we'll do water next. Okay, so on water, I'll just jump to the Spanish Valley water tank. We do have a bond or a grant from Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, which I think was renamed actually recently, but that nevertheless was $1.7 million. That leaves about 3.9 million that needs to be paid for the Spanish Valley water tank. We have been saying for years that this is a high priority tank that needs to be done. We did have an option for some other funding that didn't come through, but this project still needs to be done. So we are looking at postponing some other water projects and moving this project to the top if the council agrees. And that would take $3.9 million out of the fund balance for the water enterprise fund and would reduce it down to about $3.5 million in that fund balance.
We've also asked Senator Curtis' office for an appropriation for 3 million, and hopefully that'll come through, but we probably won't see that till next year.
We did confirm that can be a reimbursement. So if we move forward and pay for this, we can get reimbursed for that if it comes through. Some of the other things are pretty similar to the sewer, SCADA, master plan, transfers to CIP for design, tank maintenance, painting. That's some painting that needs to be done. We found out recently that it's a little bit more involved than what we had originally thought. So we did have to bump the budget for that tank maintenance up quite a bit. But it is necessary maintenance that needs to be done.
Not really.
Oh,
It really costs $400,000 to paint a water tank.
not just a water tank. You want to come up and talk about this?
You gotta remember our water's in that tank. So we want it to be.
So
Good
It's some,
paint.
for tank, painting and, some upgrades that are needed for some safety stuff. We found lead on lead paint. So that full containment, yeah, it could, do we think it's gonna cost 400? Possibly. We don't know. We're having it evaluated right now, trying to get some.
So just to be clear, we don't have any concerns about the inside of the tank. The lead was found on the outside,
Yeah.
and we are doing research. There is no lead in our water. Just to be clear, when we test the water, we haven't had any indications that there is a issue with lead on the inside that is getting into our water.
We've never had a lead test over the allowable limit.
Okay, that's a better way to say it. We've never had a lead test over the allowable limit. So we do test the water. It's not just a guessing game. The water does get tested. So that's what it's for.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it just became a bigger project. And we have to look at all of the water tanks as well. So,
Anything else? Thanks, Obi.
thanks, Obi. Okay, one more here. Stormwater CIP. We have another big one here, but it would only come out if the 300 South Bridge went forward. We do not think we are going to get $12 million for the bridge. There's going to have to be some money that needs to come in to make up for the difference. Most of it is slated to come from stormwater. Because that's what we're managing with the bridge, and that's why the bridge needs to be replaced. It's right down to stormwater. So that's the big amount in this one. Would only be spent if the project went forward, or when the project goes forward, and there is enough resources in this fund to cover that. So it'll just be earmarked for that. And then we have a few other projects that we need to get finished. A lot of it has to do with stormwater mitigation. The detention project, flood mitigation is general, and then the Johnson, White, and Tusher. Those are all detention basins as well that manage our floodwaters as they come out of the canyons. And that, unless there's any questions.
Any questions on the CIP list? What?
I'll talk a little bit more about strategic plan when we get to the tentative budget. I have a much shorter presentation, but I will touch on what we are touching with the strategic plan with this budget I'm proposing. So CIP.
All right, so does that conclude our budget workshop?
I think it does.
Any questions before we move on?
Well, I guess I have one final note. When I first started a couple years ago, and I was using it as reference going through this, I think it's always helpful to have our CIP longstanding list to be able to compare how we're prioritizing versus what we're funding each year.
Is that what you sent us today?
No, it isn't. I showed you, I think, 2 years last year, and we are still working on expanding to 5 years, but before the final, I can present the 2-year plan. That's not a problem.
I think it's helpful reference.
Yes,
Okay.
it is to have that comparison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to our general business portion of the meeting, and we'll start with public comments. Okay. And McKay, if you wouldn't mind when you're done,
Nice to meet
if you wouldn't mind filling out one of those forms when you're done, and you can just give it to
Okay.
Michael, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. My name is McKay Edwards. Like Michael, I'm an AICP planner. I also just happen to be manager of one of the resorts here in Moab. I'm here today more as a planner than as a developer. Michael and I talked about this last week. I'm here to discuss the Steen upzone. In my work as a planner, I've done large scale master plans in Washington County, Summit County, Wasatch County, Tooele County, Utah County. It's kind of the thing, what I do. I do large scale master plans in difficult terrain. I've done one in British Columbia. I've never in my life seen a project as potentially impactful as the Steen upzone. This is like the Death Star for this valley, and there's been zero public discussion of this. There was a hearing a week ago tonight. 20 of us showed up. 20 of us spoke against it. Not one person spoke for it at the county commission. But this thing's going to happen, and I'm here to challenge Moab City to stand up and say something and express yourselves. This is 1,200 units. Could not be in a more impactful location for this valley. Visual impact, environmental impact. We're just talking about sewer and water here. It's going to make the numbers you guys are talking about here today quaint. I mean, this is 1,200 units. Lions Back is what, 200-300 units. It's 4 times the size of Lions Back, and it's visible. If you can see the G, you will see the homes that would go on homes. Now, how this happened, this has all happened at the county. The current owners of 235 acres, which is a legacy landholding that runs 1 mile from my project, Moab Springs Ranch. It runs east, and because this valley is on a 45-degree angle, that takes it across a bench for a mile. There's a mile of width on this thing that will be visible. So if you can see the G, you would see the development that will happen from this thing. So it's going to break all the things we talk about in master planning and do no harm and the edge. There's no edge left in this valley. There will be development all over that hillside, all the way up over the rim and into the Slick Rock Trail. So it'll change the Slick Rock Trail. It will change Sand Flats. It'll change life in this valley. I mean, I've been told that we have something like 2,000 water connections in Moab City. We're talking about 1,200 additional. So adding another 50% to this city. It's in the annexation declaration zone, and yet they haven't, talked to the city about this at all. If you look at their application, it basically says, yeah, we're in the annexation declaration zone, but we don't care. This will be a county project. Well, of course it will be a city project. Who are they going to come to for water and sewer? Now, in the projects I've done, it's been a stretch sometimes to get to 1 unit per acre gross density if you have some terrain and some challenges. And then you cluster your development in the areas that aren't flat. This is 235 acres, of which probably 90 acres is flat enough to put a building on. They're getting 5 units per acre for every single acre on this ground, 1,200 units. Again, twice the density of Echo Canyon. And everyone says, well, don't worry because it'll cost too much to build this. That is no defense. That is not going to prevent this from happening. I challenge you to go look at Amangiri Resort in Kane County and say, billionaires and private equity love stuff like this. The day this is entitled, the ratchet effect will set in. There will be no going back. The city and the county can't come back later and say, you know what? This was a mistake. We didn't understand what was happening. That won't matter. The same attorneys that came out of the woodwork to defend a 30-year-old zoning mistake down the river here, those same attorneys will come out of the woodwork on this because we're talking about billionaires here. This will swamp us. It's like being outside on a sunny day and a cloud comes over your head and you go shady and you look up and it's not a cloud, it's a Death Star. I mean, this will hang over this valley. And just because we didn't know it was happening doesn't mean it's not real. I mean, this is no joke. A week from tonight, this is going to be approved at the county. The same 4 commissioners that we know who we're talking about. It'll be a 4-3 vote, and it will happen. And I'm sorry about the time being up here, but this is a very serious matter. And just because it's inconvenient doesn't mean it's not real. We're going to be stuck with this entitlement a week from tonight, and it may take 10 years to develop. It might take 5. It might take 30. I know a project in Wasatch County that was approved in the 1960s. Everyone said it would never happen. Well, go look at what's called East Deer Valley Village today. And it's a New York billionaire that came across an ancient approval, but it was there. And in Utah, under precedent and law, you can never go back. I've never seen a project obtain 5 units per acre. And you know how they got it? They came in asking for a food truck. They wanted a food truck at the zip line. And I don't want to cast aspersions, but the county planning department said, oh, you mean by food truck, you must mean a Vegas scale mega resort development, right? I mean, that's how I can picture it, because that's all they wanted. They want a food truck and some porta potties and a climbing wall. And they're saying, oh, it's too much trouble for us to keep coming back and expanding our special use permit on our range and grazing zoning. So let's just zone the whole thing resort commercial. And I know my time's up, but I'm sorry, Mayor, this had zero discussion at any level in this county, and it's about to happen. And I would challenge the city to stand up, contact the county and say, we need some time on this. I'm the most affected landowner. You know how, when I heard about this, the Friday before the first hearing, I heard on April 3rd, 2026, that this was happening. It was up for a hearing on the 7th, a week ago tonight. No notice to neighbors, nothing. This was kept under the radar. How a county planner could say this conformed with the general plan and the land use code is outrageous. And how a planning commission could vote 5-2 for this is outrageous. Now, the 2 people who objected, who voted against it, include Mary Hoffine, who objected on policy grounds. They're completely in left field as to where they are with. They need to finish their land use code. This thing slipped in. And I would just close by saying, I think this is the week we celebrated spending $1 billion cleaning up a mess left by a certain family in this valley. That's the family that's applied for this zone change. So I'm just here to tell you, if somebody from the city doesn't stand up and talk to the county, if we could even get a delay so that the public and the community could understand what's happening here, this will hang over this valley like a storm cloud, and it's permanent. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, McKay. And I think we are talking about a response.
Yes.
So we will stand up.
Please make it public, because Michael told me you were going to send a letter before the hearing last week. The public is not aware that Moab City has taken any position on this, and no position is the same as consent, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Okay. Moving on to our department head update. Lexi and Val are going to give us an update on our water conservation plan that we will be considering at our next meeting for, I believe, voluntary restrictions. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I like that word better. All right.
Won't be surprising that water is concerning this year. We are in a drought, and essentially what we know right now is that upstream of us, the NRCS has reported that snow water equivalent in Colorado is the lowest on record, that we hit the median peak a month early, and downstream of us, there's not a lot of water in the reservoirs. So all of this indicates that we might be up for a tough water year. The good thing is that we have been actively working on water conservation up to this point. This is just starts.
Sorry, I didn't tell her.
Oh,
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. That we've been working on water conservation. This timeline starts in 2021 when our last water conservation plan was updated. Since then, we have started doing a lot of other things that were in that plan. And even as far back as that plan, from the baseline of 2015, the city was down 16.5% from that baseline. So we have been reducing water. And then we've studied some of the water utility options since then. We passed ordinances to conserve water in landscapes and in new constructions on the inside with water sense fixtures. We have updated park irrigation in Swanee Park, and they've also been doing more this year, looking for implementing leak detection, altering times of the watering in the parks, things like that, to try to be more cognizant of water conservation in a difficult year. We've also, in the past couple of years, organized some workshops around irrigation and around some of the state incentive programs and how to do water-wise landscaping. And in this past year, we adopted the water shortage response plan, which is especially relevant in a year where we can foresee that water is in a short supply. The plan was oriented towards a trigger for activation of the plan. So when we started looking at that, OB sent some numbers for this year, which are on this table pulled from the plan in blue. So we're in the range, in the vicinity of the kind of water use that we've seen in past years. It's a little up in March, which could indicate that people are irrigating more as we've had warmer temperatures. And we've also seen increased use in the golf course, which could also indicate the same thing. However, we are still well within the amount of supply that we have available. So we're not necessarily triggering the activation of the water shortage response plan, but at the same time, we have a whole summer ahead. And in order to avoid strict mandatory measures, it makes sense for us to do some things now. So the nice thing is our plan puts us in a really good place to do some voluntary water conservation. It identified a lot of different actions that people can do. Those are detailed more in the plan here. I also included some of the example tips that the state provides through the Slow the Flow program. They have a lot of other outreach resources and incentives that are available. So those are all things that we can draw on to encourage people to voluntarily save water right now in order to save water all summer long. Lisa has been working on voluntary water conservation outreach starting now and running throughout the summer. We also have a budget for this. And initially, the message is we're concerned about where water is, that our drinking water is not currently endangered, but we should work proactively now so it isn't, and in order to be able to avoid more stringent measures later. And then going through some of the tips similar to what was on the last page, but focusing on watering trees and shrubs right now. We don't have to water grass yet. It's pretty resilient. And the state also puts out a weekly watering guide. So using some of those resources to help people figure out ways that they can save water currently, and then keeping that up to date throughout the summer. We also have some things that we're going to continue to work on throughout the summer. So I'm going to let Val talk some about these.
Yeah, we're really excited about the public communications campaign we're about to be launching, but this is just the beginning of the work that we're about to be doing on this. We want to make sure we're taking long-term planning for water seriously, and this year we'll be updating our water conservation plan. This is a state mandated process. Every 5 years, the state requires us to submit a plan updating our progress on water conservation goals they set for us in 2015 to receive state funding and loans, but we're just definitely making sure we're going to be taking this process seriously. As you can see on this map, they determined a 20% reduction from 2015 numbers by 2030. So off the top of my head, and actually reading off of this, 2015 years was 333 The goal was gonna be 267. When we made the plan in 2021, we had gotten that down to 278 and we're shooting for 250. So we're feeling confident that we'll be able to come up with some strong water conservation recommendations that can kind of continue along that linear water savings to go above and beyond for what the state recommended. Yeah, we're considering that 2015 projection to be more of a baseline instead of something we're really extending ourselves for or grasping for. And yeah, we're just gonna be looking at best management practices over the course of the next 5 years. We'll be putting this in front of experts like the Moab Area Water Partnership, and other water focus groups for review, and we're gonna work with Lisa on a community level outreach plan. Just as far as scheduling and timeline for that, a draft is due to the state on July 15th, which will be followed by a public hearing. So that's mandated by the state process. And then we will submit our final submission on December 15th. We'd like to kind of put something together prior to that draft submission for you all. So we're going to have a water conservation workshop planned out with council for June 23rd, just to have that on your calendar. I'm really looking forward to working on it, and excited to field any other questions you may have about it. I don't know if you want to talk about the water rate stuff, Leslie.
Sure. A few other things that are going to be coming up in the next fiscal year. We'll also be doing an update onto our water rates, impact fees, a study on that, and that does have opportunities for us to evaluate if there are things that we can do there that would discourage overuse of water. And then we'll continue collaborating with area water providers and investigating options. Happy to answer questions.
And did you mention that we did budget some resources for this? Okay, good.
Mhm.
I had to step out for just a second.
Questions?
I've got a comment. I'm really excited about exploring gray water systems locally, and in my current situation, being excited about that. Where I'm at in my home, it would be thousands and thousands of dollars to retrofit a gray water system. And so I would really like to start exploring the option of whether through requirement or some sort of incentivizing program, just the simple act of, during the construction process, we're talking about a couple $100 that then after the construction process is over becomes $10,000 or more. And so some way to just incentivize people to just the simple valve and stub out that would allow that homeowner or any future homeowner in that spot to easily transition to a gray water system.
Okay, yeah, we can include that in things that we'll look into, see what the options are for us.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? When is the outreach plan going to go in effect? Because I think it needs to start like yesterday.
Yeah. The idea is to start this month. So I think the first day Lisa had on there was the 15th of April, tomorrow, to start doing some more outreach on this. It is also on our list for reels or other types of like social media outreach. So some of that will be as soon as this month.
One of the things that a constituent approached me on was, are we gonna be working like with restaurants? I mean, this is kind of a challenge in our hotels. I know a lot of hotels that I go to, they tell you, and this may already be occurring, to, if you don't want your sheets changed today, put this on your pillow, and so that we're not washing laundry every single day. And in restaurants, if you don't want a glass of water, you don't get a glass of water. And I know water is kind of an issue here because we encourage people to drink water so they don't get dehydrated. But that was something that this person was really concerned about because she went to lunch and 4 glasses of water came and 4 glasses of water went down the drain. And so I don't know how I think that's something we need to include in our outreach when we're, talking to our local restaurants and hotels.
Okay.
Anything else? Are we going to see that plan, that outreach plan, or what's our next step here for the council?
Right. If you want to see it, we can share it with you. Right now we have an outline, kind of like first steps, types of messaging and the types of actions that we're going to take.
You could do another update on the 24th.
Yeah, could we
Quick
do
one
that?
like this.
The 28th, I think it is.
Oh, 28th.
28th. Okay.
I think that would be great. And because, and we're also gonna be talking about this on Friday with the county so that we're kind of sending that message, both bodies, the city and the county. You guys need to be paying attention to water this year. So I think that'd be great. Alexi, if we could get an update on what the plan is and the dates and what's gonna be a part of that at our 28th meeting.
See you later this month then.
Yeah, okay. Very good, thanks.
Thanks.
And one other question, Obi, I don't know if you can answer this. Have we checked our water table at all?
We've monitored constantly. There are no triggers right now showing. That's not bad.
Okay,
Yeah, there's nothing, we're on groundwater, we're not on surface water. So a lot of those indications that you're talking about are surface water indications. And there's not really any indications right now for, that our groundwater peril.
okay, so just so everybody knows, Obi just said that there's no indication right now that our water situation is in peril. I do know that I had a tree that died in my yard. And I'm down by the sloughs and I'm thinking, wow, how could that tree, I've had it in my yard for 6 years and it just died this year. So anyway, that's why I asked the question. Thanks, everyone. All right. Consent agenda is our next item. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. The consideration of a letter of support for essential air service. That was recommending SkyWest and Delta to serve our community at the airport. And we have the minutes from the regular meeting on March 24th, 2026, and the approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $746,274.59. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I can move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tawny,
I'll second it.
second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right. We, next item is the discussion and approval of the RAP tax grant funding recommendations from the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee. My understanding that the process went really well. Patrick is gonna start us off, and then Colin, if you could kind of give us a briefing on the meetings that you attended, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to introduce this and give a little background information, and Colin obviously can speak to it as well. The RAP TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, had 4 out of the 5 members were new this year. Like the mayor said, I had some really great discussions on this. We had 25 applications this year, which was up, I believe, 3 from last year, with a total ask amount of $231,000+. With the 80-20 split for the RAP tax, we had $85,000 to allocate. Majority of the applicants who qualified, there were a few that didn't, received at least partial funding. And let's see, the TAC met on March 19th to discuss applications are due Friday, January 23rd. And the following recommendations that were included in your packet are what they came up with based on the criteria. Let's see. And that is all I have.
Colin.
Yeah, Colin.
Well, again, and I said this, we had a phenomenal committee this year, a really, really great, very thoughtful, you know, the work that goes into this, you know, I spent 5 hours reviewing these and other members spent far more time than that. I mean, just being so thorough. And I think the discussion was very, very well informed, and you know, it's an impossible task when you're looking at allocating $84,000, $85,000 when the ask is, you know, 3 times that. And all of these projects, you know, had incredible value to the community. And so the process was first to eliminate any that didn't fit the RAP tax requirements. And then to just slowly, you know, through really lively discussion, just sort of whittle down all these asks to where we could actually, you know, hopefully you spend this $85,000 in a way that you know, has the greatest community benefit. So great process. And Pat did an incredible job of facilitating the meeting and this discussion. So thanks, Pat.
Yep, thank you.
Any questions for Colin or Patrick?
Yeah, I do. I guess it's always interesting given a final rubric and looking at things allocated and at what amounts. So I guess I'm wondering, can you remind us what the qualifications are? Like, do they have to be a nonprofit?
Yeah.
Why we're,
501c3.
Or under the umbrella.
Right.
Yeah.
Of another organization.
okay,
That's right. And yeah, and in addition to that, the projects or events have to take place within city limits.
okay.
And there's certain exemptions like schools who are funded more than 50% of their operations through the state are exempt. And then a few other guidelines and stipulations kind of, in that same vein. But those are the two main ones, the 501c3.
And Caitlin, I'm curious, as you're looking at that, another couple of the requirements that really came into play this year is these projects had to be public. They had to be public spaces and open to the public for 5 years or for 10 years. And that disqualified a couple of really great projects. Another thing that really came into play this year is that the funding couldn't go to a project that was a fundraiser for another project or entity. And that disqualified at least one great candidate this year. That was a hard one. And I think that's probably covers what you may have seen as some great projects that didn't get any allocation.
Thanks. So is it safe to assume that the projects that are not funded were not funded because they were not qualified, or were there some that you didn't fund?
I think any that didn't get funded weren't qualified. We tried to spread out the money. That the big conversation is, and as we move forward, we're going to really try to establish this is, when you partially fund one of these projects, is it like, how do you determine as a committee whether a partial funding is going to allow this project to still carry forward, or by giving them 25% of their ask, is this project going to fail? And we of course don't want any of these projects to fail. We wouldn't be out as if they did not fail. The money would come back to us. And then another big one was, a big part of our discussion was, we've had a lot of the same projects coming back year after year, and they're wonderful projects, but we also, and this is a very subjective decision on our part and a very individual decision, but is it better to start pulling some of that away from these very well established and these organizations that sort of have the resources to go out for the other sources of funding, and really focus on the startup projects or the projects that maybe don't have the resources or the staff to be seeking more funding. And so it's a really complicated discussion, and every single committee member brings a very different perspective in all those things to the discussions.
It's a great point. And like, just to piggyback what Colin said, like, we look at the resiliency of the organization and other funding sources, and that's actually part of the application. And so, like, is this still going to proceed? If the committee finds us to be a valuable community program or event, will it still proceed with or without RAP funding? What kind of impact will this money have? And so that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. And ultimately it comes down to the end of the process is we're just going down and whittling away at what we're able to fund each project with until we can reach that sum at $85,000.
Anything else?
Unless there are other questions.
Motion?
Would love to make that if I can. Is there a recommended motion in the?
Yeah, there should be. Here it is.
Thank you. I move to approve the RAP tax recommended projects and funding amounts for the 2026 cycle totaling $85,000.
Thanks. Motion by Colin. So I have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Caitlin. Any discussion? Colin.
None.
Caitlin?
I appreciate your explanation. I think going back to some comments about community contributions, like I asked these questions because I know I had people asking me about, well, why doesn't the city put more money towards RapTag? We got $200,000 in requests, and I think even just trying to understand, I appreciate the explanations, and I respect the committee toiling away. I didn't watch as much of this year's meeting. Definitely know it was contentious last year. And I think, yeah, the more we can kind of create systems for how we contribute is gonna be great. But really appreciate your work on this. I think this is an amazing thing that the city does to allocate RapTac, and I think it has created some really amazing events. I think also tying in public art, the more we can distribute RapTac to all kinds of public art, I think the more diverse and beautiful our community will be. So just thank you for your work, and yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, we'll move on to our budgetary items. We have 4 public hearings. The first public hearing is we amended the agenda, so we moved items 6.2 and 6.3 to after these other public hearings. The first one is a public hearing for ordinance 2026-04, an ordinance adopting the city of Moab pay plan schedules for fiscal year 26-27. And I'm going to open that public hearing at 7:03 p.m. And Danny?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm really here to answer questions on this one. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. A couple things to point out, it is that we did estimate 2.8% COLA. So when you're looking at these pay charts, you probably notice these pay charts are considerably smaller than they were last year when we presented these. That is because I did pull out all of our salary exempt employees and put them into a different chart. That is to accommodate the highly compensated employee freeze that's going to happen. So with that being said, not every position that is in that chart is going to be froze at this time. However, they do have the potential to get there over the next 2 years. And so it just made sense to pull all of our salaried exempt employees into that. We don't anticipate any hourly employees hitting that freeze. So that's kind of why there's that extra one in there.
This is a state requirement, right?
This is just the pay plans, the state requirements, the next.
The next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any? Go ahead.
The only question I had was on the, which one is it C? Attachment C. Is that where people currently are, that number on the right?
So, oh, sorry, I should have put what that was. No, that is actually their grade. So they fall somewhere in a step on that grade line.
So okay, so on the thing it has, you have
Which
one through 12 going across the top. And then you have
Oh.
18 through 5 on the left side.
Right.
What is the left side?
So the left side is your grade. So that's gonna line up with, so there's this sheet that's in there.
Yeah,
That's gonna line up with these numbers. That's gonna tell you what grade they are. The 1 through 12 are the 12 steps that we have within that grade.
okay.
So each one of these positions is assigned a grade based on a scoring system. And so that's where those come in. And then depending on how long they've been here, what their experience is, will depend on where they fall within that 1 through 12 step.
Okay.
And that's how you determine a merit, is they move up a step.
Correct.
Okay, that helps me a lot. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Caitlin?
So do we have any positions that are currently frozen that aren't in that kind of executive or salary category? Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Do we have any comments from the public on the pay plan schedule for the city of Moab, 26-27? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:05 and move on to consideration of ordinance 2026-04, adopting the city of Moab pay plan schedule for fiscal year 26-27.
I'll make a recommendation. I move to approve the ordinance 2026-04, an ordinance adopting the city of Moab pay plan schedules for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Motion by Jason, second by Colin. Discussion? Jason?
No, I was gonna say, I liked how you did it this year. And maybe you did it last year too, stuff, but how each department, that first couple slides was showing, how everything was going in that. I thought that was really clear and concise, and I appreciate that.
Colin?
Thanks, Danny.
Anybody else?
Thanks. This was a good process, I think, looking through.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do I have to do a roll call? For the schedule or just the budget?
I think.
It couldn't hurt. This is Nathan.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and do a roll call. Miles?
That's a lawyer response.
Yeah. Caitlin?
Aye.
Aye.
Colin, aye. Connie? Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right. Danny, don't go away.
I'm not.
Our next item is a public hearing for ordinance 2026-05, an ordinance adopting the city of Moab salary schedules for elected and executive officials for fiscal year 2026-27. And I'm going to open this public hearing at 7:07. Danny.
So this is the state required ordinance that we have to put in place each year. So we always have to list out the mayor, council members and the planning commission, so our elected and appointed officials. And then it is a little different this year because there are two sections. So the first section is going to be executive positions. Executive positions are classified by the state. So that's why you'll see some of these on here that might seem a little odd to be in this section, but they are supervisors of any kind. And then section 3 is going to be the ones that have been pulled out into that other chart that will not be receiving COLA or merit increases this year. So I just wanted to break those ones out. I do want to clarify again that all the positions in section 3 have the potential to be frozen. Not all the positions in section 3 are frozen.
Questions for Danny? All right, I'm going to open this up to the public for comment. Anybody from the public want to comment on the executive and elective salaries for 26-27 for the city of Moab? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:09 and ask for a motion to consider ordinance 2026-05.
I can move to approve ordinance 2026-05, an ordinance adopting the city of Moab salary schedules for elected and executive officials for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Motion by Tawny. Second.
You can second that.
Second by Colin. Discussion, Tawny?
No.
Colin?
No.
Anybody else? Roll call. Miles.
Aye.
Caitlin.
Aye.
Colin.
Aye.
Connie.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right. Thanks, Danny. Marcy, you're up. Okay, Marcy, we are going to open your public hearing for ordinance 26-06. This is an ordinance amending Title III of the Moab Municipal Code to update Chapter 3.50, the master fee schedule, and modifying certain fees and rates charged by the city of Moab. We're going to open up this public hearing at 7:10.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so this one we do every single year right before budget. It's our standard process. Please do be advised that the master fee schedule is a living, breathing document. It can be updated anytime. We just utilize our budget time to do a mass update if there are things that we find that we need to increase throughout the year for various reasons. There are fees that actually did not make it on here, unfortunately, because of the new regulations corrective going to Planning Commission. So there are planning fees that will come to you guys at a later date. We're going to talk about it tomorrow, so I don't know when that will be, but just be advised that this is only partial of the master fee schedule, unfortunately. And I did not do a presentation. If you go to the ordinance, it does break down what we added, updated, removed, etc. So I will leave it to you guys if you have any questions.
Any questions for Marcy on the fee schedule?
Look pretty straightforward.
I love it.
Yeah, pretty sure. I guess I'm wondering, based on your comments, Colin, earlier, I noticed a few of them are Parks and Rec. So just kind of reiterating if, obviously, I'm assuming that those are just assessed to offset like equipment and jerseys cost more, and so we're just passing that along to users that might be more.
That's correct. And I believe I put that information in the actual red line with the comments to break down why each of the fees were in there, for the recreation. And Mark and Rec, when it says Moab Arts and Recreation Center, it's really broke down to Moab Arts, in those particular sections that you're seeing the increases or the additional fees. And it's just to capture what they missed with the last update when we were trying to make sure we collaborated all fees that we have to have on here.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
Can I really rent a button maker?
I'm sorry.
Or a sewing machine.
Or a sewing machine?
Patrick,
They already have it.
Really?
Yeah.
that was news to me too. And
That's
Michael,
full
both of us
service.
were like, wow.
That's full service.
When we were reviewing the fees,
For a campaign of a reelection campaign.
No, but I can make one with.
you should go there, Jason.
Is that what it
Rent
is?
it.
I thought it was.
That?
And you can purchase the
Got it.
buttons too.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's on here too. That was added.
I thought
Instead of 50 for $10 and they offer two sizes.
I might be there next week.
I think it's great. Will you let
Hey.
me know to schedule
Yeah,
the
exactly.
buttons? Great.
Seriously, Jason, what questions do you have?
Can I really make buttons? That was my question.
That was it?
Yeah.
All right.
I've been waiting all day to ask that.
Don't make the buttons. You're sewing the buttons onto things.
Hey.
Oh, it's sewing the buttons?
It's not button making.
Oh, it's
No,
button.
like,
Oh, it's
Yeah.
both.
like,
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
I
God.
learned something new today.
And you gotta go to the Red Rock Arts Fest because they always have a button making booth.
Yeah, they do.
oh,
Really?
Yeah.
make.
I did
I'd
not
like to be.
be there.
Well, for the public to know, if anybody needs a button, you can rent our button maker. I bet people don't know that.
At the
A
mark,
lot of
That's
rentals.
a mark.
we do.
Sewing
What
machines
else
too.
rentals did you?
Yes, sewing machines.
No, that was
That was at it.
that was it. No, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions on the fee schedule? All right, I'm going to open this up to the public. See if there's any comments from the public on the Moab City's master fee schedule and modifications in rates charged by the city to the public. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:13 PM and move on to consideration of ordinance 2026-6. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-06. Without modifications.
All right, motion by Jason,
I'll second.
second by Miles. Discussion, Jason.
Nope.
Miles?
Nope.
Anybody else? All right, roll call. Miles?
Aye.
Caitlin?
Aye.
Colin?
Aye.
Connie?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great.
Thanks, Marcy. Nice
Thanks, Marcy.
job. Good
Thank
work.
you.
Appreciate all your hard work. Okay, now we move on to section, our general business 6.2, which is a public hearing for resolution 03-2026, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 26-27. Now, remember, this is tentative. Opportunity to ask really detailed questions if you need to, from Michael in the interim before we actually approve the final budget. So, gonna open up the public hearing at 7:15, and Danny and Michael.
Yeah, so just a quick overview, really quick. We'll have Danny do the personnel. We already talked about some of the personnel. I need to get out of this. You have a presentation going.
I do, but.
Oh, let me
if you
get out.
start, that's
No,
okay.
no.
Danny's gonna
I
start.
jumped the gun.
You do.
But this, like the mayor said, this is a tentative budget. This is a state requirement that we do this and a final budget. I think the state just wants to know that everybody is getting their budgets ready on time. So, we're pretty comfortable with this as a budget presentation, but there is still time to look at and make amendments before the final, and turn it over to Danny.
Okay.
And then I'll go
Very
after Danny.
close. Okay, so when we went through all the departments, I talked to you guys about individual department percentages as far as salary and wages and benefits went. This is more of a summary per fund. So kind of give you a city overview and then what the funds are looking like. Just to start out, again, this is just a reminder, we've talked about this lots of times. The salary increase we're anticipated about 7%, includes a 2.8% COLA. Benefit increase is about 10%. And those are the numbers that we use kind of for our benchmarking moving forwards. So this is going to be our overall expected versus actual growth citywide, which is actually really great. Our salaries are lower than expected. The majority of that is due to the highly compensated employee freeze. Where benefits are slightly higher, and again, this is citywide, so this is all funds, than what we had expected. And the majority of that is you're gonna see your employee status changes, and then a couple of the off-cycle increases that we did talk about when we went through specific departments. So we'll start with the actual general fund. General fund is our biggest fund. It also has the majority of our highly compensated employees in it. So that's why you're going to see salaries at 5.52% versus the 7% expected. And then also benefits are lower than expected. Again, that comes off of the highly compensated employee freeze. When salaries go down, benefits go down. So that is our biggest savings there. Our 23 funds are arts and recreation. I know it's recreation fund. I just feel arts kind of gets left out sometimes, so I threw that in there. Salaries are a little bit higher than expected. This is another thing that we talked about as far as there were a couple step adjustments and an off-cycle increase. Benefits are higher expected. Most of this is due to turnover and employee status changes. Again, we talked about it with Pat, how when you have somebody that leaves that's a single that comes in as a family, you see kind of that bigger overall increase. And again, since this includes aquatic, arts and sports, it's lower than what just we went over with Pat when it came to sports. So 51, so now in our enterprise fund, salaries are higher than expected. This is due mainly to a salary correction. We did talk about when Obi was up here that we found in 25-26 that we needed to correct for this year. So this is a one-time correction. This isn't something that we expect moving forwards. And benefits, the same thing we had before, employee status changes, and then partially due to that correction from 25-26.
Was the correction because we went to step and grade?
The correction is because we had an employee was just actually budgeted at the wrong level.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on our 52 fund, for sewer, salaries are slightly higher. That had to do with an off-cycle salary increase. One of the things to talk about here is the setup for all of our public works and public utilities positions is we have a worker 1, 2, and 3. We did not have that at the WRF. For some reason, we've only ever had a worker 2. So this last year we did implement the 3 steps that, require different qualifications, which did lead to a off-cycle increased promotion. And then benefits are down. And this is kind of the opposite of what we saw in recreation, where we had turnover that went the other direction, where we had a family leave was replaced by a single. So that's why the benefits are lower than expected. And that's me. That's it. What questions you guys have?
Questions on the salaries and benefits? Okay, we'll move on to Michael.
The rest of the budget. Okay,
You want me to stay up here?
yes,
Okay.
please. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go over the rest of the budget. I'll touch on a couple of things really quickly that Danny's already touched on, but just because it just fits into the whole budget. But sorry.
Technology's worked this whole time, Michael.
Yeah, I know. So like I mentioned earlier, this is state law requirement that we do a tentative budget. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's better than being behind schedule. It gives us time if we need it. The goal today is to present a balanced budget and have the council approve that. This is the tentative budget. The budget total for all funds is up 4.71%. The cap, that includes all salaries, benefits, and all operations and maintenance over all funds. The capital improvement plan is significantly up, and you saw that a little bit earlier today, but I'll show you a more zoomed out picture here in a minute. And that's mainly due to those several large scale projects that you saw. But we have tried through this budget to maintain the standard that we set last year, and we're trying to reflect an organization that is inclusive. I think all of the department heads felt included in this process. You saw that they reported this year. I hope that that was something that you appreciated and was helpful for you. I thought it was really good and helps them to really have some face time with the council and understand the budget concerns that or budget challenges that there might be. And that helps them, everybody maintain and manage a budget. So we are still looking at keeping the same service levels as we had last year. This budget reflects that, but we are looking at slowing and reducing expenditures. And that's one of the things that you can see with the pay plan changes. In the first year that I was city manager working with Danny, we changed the step and grade program. That was an effort to slow pay down or expenses down a little bit. And then this year, we have several employees who are now on that freeze. These are the highest compensated employees within the city, and over a 2-year period, they'll be on a freeze, and that should save the city about $374,000. And as I explained previously, this will keep building and building and building. Over 5 years, it will be close to $1 million. And just like a salary, when you have a salary increase every year, it builds and builds and builds. A salary freeze will save, and it'll keep saving on down the line. We already mentioned COLA, that 2.8%. That is consistent with Social Security Administration, and that is our recommendation, is that we just stay in line with Social Security Administration this year. A couple of things to go over. I want to show you tax revenues because I think it's the one thing that gets brought up the most, and it's kind of the litmus test of how things are going with tourism and a lot of other things as well. So I wanted to just go over all of our taxes really quick. And as you can see, we're about a 3.5% increase that we're projecting. It's important to realize, though, that our tourism related taxes, we're seeing them grow, and we're seeing them come back month after month in this fiscal year higher than they did in the previous fiscal year. However, we're not using our projections for how we think we're going to end this year to budget next year. We're budgeting a 3.5% increase off of what I would consider a very lean budget that we recommended and had approved last year for revenue. I do think that our revenues will end higher this year than what was budgeted, but that still remains to be seen since the year is not over yet. So as you can see here, 3.5% increase. And again, it's a 3.5% from last year's budget, not from the projected revenues. Next, we have the expenditures. Like I said earlier, the expenditures are 4.71% over all departments and all funds. And as you can see those listed on the left there, those are all of our funds that have operation costs. And we have a 4.71% increase. If you look back to 2025 fiscal year and compare that to 2027, you can see that it's actually a decrease over all of the funds. Now that's not generally how we look at things, because you may have one big expense year in Parks and Rec or in sewer or so on. But I do think that we're in line with the increase that we're proposing, which does include all salaries and benefits that Danny just talked about. And this does show a budget that keeps the same service level and has all of our departments pretty much full as far as employees go. So we are able to continue to provide those services with all of those employees. The capital improvement plan, as I talked about earlier, the total plan is about $39 million over all of the budgets, and it's because of those very large projects that we had talked about. This is more of a zoomed out view of it, but we've got the Spanish Valley water tank going forward, but us looking at different ways of funding it than we had originally anticipated. We've got design for 100 West and 400 East, getting ready for shovel-ready projects so that we can get funding for those projects. The MRAC major maintenance and upgrades is going forward if the CIP budget is approved. And then we have the water feature at the pool and the ball field redesign and sidewalks and things like that within parks. I don't believe that we will spend all of this money. But like I was saying, the $17 million that in this budget anyways is for the 300 South Bridge and the outfall project are two projects that we do need to show on our capital improvement plan so we can show that we're serious about moving those projects forward as we're applying for funding for those things. Our recommendation, and I'll just preface this with, I'm not going to go into detail in all the departments because that's why we held the workshops. I'm happy to answer any questions about departments and to go over any concerns or challenges that you see in the budget. Danny's still up here and we can go over this together. But we are recommending approval of this tentative budget because we do think it represents the budget that we need to continue to provide the level of service that we're providing today. We don't have a lot of increases in employees. In fact, we've moved employees around instead of adding employees. I wasn't going to go over this completely, but I'll just go over a couple of high points really quick. In Community Development Department, we have 2 employees who moved to the admin department. The planning division within the Community Development Department has a lot of new requirements that are being imposed by the state through legislation to move applications through and do work a lot quicker than previously. So we had moved someone from facilities, not a person, but an FTE, an open position from facilities to planning. So these are ways that we're trying to address the needs that we have within our divisions and our departments without increasing the number of employees or FTEs over the city. We've also had a couple of other things that did increase that we were not planning on. One of those was our insurance, and this is our liability insurance because of a lot of the flooding that is because of the flooding that has happened and a lot of the damage that has happened. Our insurance company has informed us that our premium went from about $400,000 to $650,000 a year, and they've also increased our deductible from 25
From 1,000 to 25,000.
from 1,000 to 25,000.
And
That's a big increase.
yeah, and just to clarify, these deductibles are per incident, so that it's not a cumulative deductible like we do with like our health insurance. This is per incident. Yeah, it was a pretty big hit between liability and property insurance.
Right. So that is added into this budget. We also have a couple of things that could potentially change between the tentative and the final budget. We have an IT RFP that has gone out, and we're hoping to get some indication of what that cost might be going forward. And that's what we budgeted for. That was $360,000. We're hoping it'll come in a little bit less. I've also added into here a new grant that hasn't been considered before. That's tentative, of course, because the council will be talking about this new grant on the 24th. If it's approved, then obviously we would go forward with that grant. If it's not, we would take that back out. And then that also comes with some vehicle considerations as well. So we'll be talking about that going forward, which will affect the vehicle budget. But we feel very confident in the tentative budget that we're proposing. We feel like we're really close to a final budget, but we don't want to say this is final because we want that opportunity to tweak and to make changes, especially after hearing what you have to say today and any conversations we might have going forward between now and the final budget. And that is our presentation.
Questions? Before I open it up to the public. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you, and thank everyone on staff for being here and continuing to come to these budget workshops. I really appreciate that we brought these back, so thank you. I think it's been helpful for me to actually go through each of them. I think going from tentative to final, I guess if you have a little bit of response on, but for me, hearing expenditures going up slightly higher than tax revenues, if you have any supplemental information about
Yeah.
or offsetting other operations, but for me, I'd like to advocate for looking at some haircuts. I think that we deserve that to our taxpayers, especially because a lot of our projects come in. We know I've experienced enough that we anticipate that we are going to spend more on a lot of things through the next year. Line of duty, with all due respect, will be something that I would like to continue to talk to you guys about. But by the time we get a final, I do really appreciate all the time and effort that staff put into this. And the way that you have put forward your budgets and really have tried to work on that. I think that that's something over the next month that, just little haircuts here and there.
So just if I can respond to one thing really quick, I only show the tax revenue at 3.5% because it's a lot. It's what people look at a lot, but our entire revenues went up 5.5%, the same amount that our expenses have gone up. And a lot of that has to do with grants and then increases in planning fees, because we're seeing planning fees come in a lot higher because there's so much planning and building going on right now. And then there's a few other areas where we have seen some increases in revenues. They're all included in the packet. And I apologize, it's just so long I didn't show them all, but I think most people generally want to see what we're looking at, that we're not looking at raising, that we're not anticipating taxes going up more than they probably will. But I just wanted to say that the revenues have increased the exact same amount that the expenses have increased at 5.5%. And I'm happy to talk more about that with anybody who'd like to.
So anything else, Caitlin? Because what I'd like to suggest is between now and May 12th, that you guys set up meetings with Michael to kind of put out put out what your issues and concerns are, or suggestions that you have. And then, we can all talk about it when we meet. And then at our May 12th, any changes that are made to this tentative, we'll put that out to the public and go from there. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. So in the meantime, we need a motion. Oh, I need to hear from the public. Karen. Anybody from the public would like to speak on Moab City's budget for 26-27?
I think I see it.
No. All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:34 p.m. and ask for a motion to approve Resolution 0326, a resolution adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 26-27.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 03-2026, a resolution adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Motion by Miles. And do I have a second?
I can second.
Second by Colin. Discussion, Miles?
No, I think this is well put together. I am curious to speak to Michael about a couple points as we go forward, but I mean, I think it's all in there, and I really do want to kind of mirror Caitlin's comment about, I really appreciate these budget workshops. Like, as someone coming in new to this has been incredibly helpful to help me delve through everything and actually have a strong understanding of what I'm improving. So I really just appreciate everybody's time and effort.
Thanks, Miles. Colin?
No comment.
Anybody else? All right, roll call vote. Miles?
Aye.
Caitlin?
Aye.
Colin?
Aye.
Connie?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. More to come, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Okay, so our last item of business, we do have a closed session this evening. But our last item of business before we move to city manager updates and council reports is a consideration of ordinance 2607, an ordinance amending the text of the Moab Municipal Code section 17.08.060 to update the process by which the city grants exceptions to its requirements governing the construction of sidewalks, curbs, and gutter. Johanna and Corey is on the line on Zoom if we need them.
Okay, hello everybody. This is the current code. So when construction happens on a lot, developers have two options. They can either build the sidewalk, curb, and gutters, or they can come to the city council for an exception, given that they meet the criteria. And then if granted the exception, they can pay the fee in lieu instead of constructing. The proposed amendment adds a new tier of exception. This would be a total exception without a fee in lieu. It also changes the approval body to the city manager rather than coming to the city council for both of these exceptions. This amendment was forwarded by Planning Commission positively at our last meeting with a very minor amendment. So here is the language of the proposal. We can see in A and C, those are changing out the approval bodies, and then F is the criteria for the new total exception. And then I'll note in F3, the A in parentheses is our the minor amendment that was proposed by Planning Commission to have that sentence read a little easier.
Is that it? Can you explain them?
Yes, sorry. Right now in the draft ordinance, it reads, the street where the lot or property is located is not subject to project the city has approved to pave or otherwise improve the street. They proposed adding an A to that sentence.
Got it. Any questions for Johanna?
Can I ask why we would be changing this to city manager authority?
I think for a couple of reasons. I think in government, it's always appreciated when things can get approved at the lowest level possible because people, especially developers and people building, are trying to get through processes as quickly as possible. I think this is an administrative action. Personally, I think if there is criteria and you can only approve it by the criteria, and there's no other considerations besides the criteria, I think staff can do a fine job making a recommendation to the city manager, and the city manager can determine whether or not those conditions have been met, those criteria have been met. So, and I think we see this from time to time where it's pretty straightforward, where somebody doesn't have a sidewalk on either side of them, but there's sidewalk a block away or something. So there's going to be sidewalk eventually. And, but it doesn't make sense to do a sidewalk right in the middle of those two stretches with no sidewalk. So it's very simple to say, well, yeah, you meet the criteria. Why don't we do a fee in lieu of improvement on this? And we'll install the sidewalk at the time when we finish the rest of the sidewalk. And then the new addition here would say that instead of let's see, where is it? It shall not require a fee in lieu if you live on a street that isn't even paved. So you live on a street where nobody has paid towards the improvement of the street because there's no sidewalk, there's no curb and gutter, there's no storm drain. There presumably is water and sewer. If there's not, it's being gained another way. And there certainly is no road in the terms of a paved road. It's a dirt or gravel road. The city, our position as staff is that we don't feel comfortable requiring one person who comes in now to pay for a sidewalk on a street that doesn't even have a curb and gutter on it or asphalt on the street. So we feel like it's appropriate in that situation to not require a fee in lieu or the construction of the sidewalk itself, because it seems like nobody on the street has paid into it either.
Nathan?
There's another reason for this, and the big land use bill this year, SB 284, made some changes, and one of those, and I admit that this doesn't necessarily squarely fit within it, but it's kind of the spirit of the law. The legislature really doesn't want city councils approving land use applications anymore. And so one of the things we'll be seeing when we get to amending and implementing this bill is that land use authorities can't be city councils anymore. And so this is a little bit of a different thing because it's an exception, but it is still part of the land use approval process, which I think the legislature's been pretty clear they don't want city councils and legislative bodies approving. So there's a legal reason for having it be done at the staff level as well.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Nathan. I guess in response to that, I would express a little bit of hesitancy. I think I definitely hear that, and I'm watching that trend. Would feel potentially more comfortable. I think the planning commission reviews a lot of exceptions. And I think between this and the impact fee, having changing that to city manager authority, I think that you're doing a great job as city manager. And I think we also have to think about just generally the levels of authority granted to that position within code, not Michael Black having that authority, making the right call. So I think that this is pretty clear, but I also am just gonna throw it out. I think I would feel more comfortable with the planning commission having both of these. I think especially where this condition F is applicable is going to be fairly small. However, I think it is worthwhile for a planning zone, an advisory body to review this in the context of larger planning initiatives. And so I think it is, I see the purpose of it, and I know that there are a couple projects that this potentially will impact and hopefully help as they're moving forward. But just thinking about levels of authority, I wanted to at least raise the question of having planning commission be the body that reviews exceptions like this.
So I'll just speak to this because I listened to it and the discussion that occurred in planning commission. And I think it was really well thought out as planning commission went through it. And there was kind of just the understanding that we are limiting liability by moving this into a much more administrative position. And that essentially, because of how we're developing, and specifically because of how it's worded in such a way that the fee in lieu and the actually build the sidewalk process has been working very well. And so this introduction of the full exemption is in such a specific and minor way in the way that our city is being developed that it's not in a position to be taken advantage of. And so to speak to what Caitlin had to say, planning commission did not discuss whether or not the city manager was the appropriate staff person to make the approval, but they felt very comfortable with this becoming a staff decision and not a planning commission or a city council decision. So I think if we were to talk about who we wanted to make that approval, we could talk about, some other staff member that has land use authority decisions. But I definitely think it makes most sense to keep it as a staff decision.
I mean, I guess if I may bring back council went against staff's recommendation, and we did grant a variance for fee in lieu in December to the applicant. If this had been administrative, if we had followed code for this, that would have been denied on both fronts.
And they still have an administrative appeal process where they could still appeal it and get in front of somebody who there's no decisions where it's just final. I mean, you can appeal things and go to court and all kinds of stuff. But in this case, even any decision that staff makes, there is an appealable process. So, and as far as who makes the decision, it's not, it's really just most decisions like this are consolidated with the city manager, just because the city manager is the CEO and generally signs for the city with the approval of the city council. And there's probably always going to be a city manager. There's times when there's a community development director, not a planning director, and things like that. The whole thing is really up to you. If you want the planning commission to review it, I think the only problem with that is just the time frame, the time that it takes, where there's really no subjective part of this, where it's just, if you meet these criteria, it should be approved. I think that it fits the criteria of having a lower level approval because there is no subjectiveness to it. But
And I think the planning commission made this recommendation. Miles made a really good point, and you will be consulting with the planning department. It's not like this is going to come to you and you're just going to say yes or no. You will be consulting with Johanna and Corey, and they'll tell you what their recommendations are.
Absolutely.
So, and if they say, yeah, we believe this meets that criteria, you could say, well, I don't, but my guess is you're going to go along with your staff.
most likely with this.
And basically, I know staff and planning commission to be very detailed and deliberate, and this was a fairly lengthy discussion, and I think that they really parsed through it, and that positive recommendation coming from them came from a well thought out perspective of it makes a lot of sense to make this a staff decision because it is so absolutely straightforward and it is not subjective.
Anything else?
No, I kind of agree with what you're saying there. And, it's like there's a checklist, it's like check, 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 if it doesn't meet any of those, then it gets kicked out, or something. So I feel like there's some checks in there where you can't, like you said, make it subjective, in there. So I'm fine with the way it reads. I think it does fast track, or it makes things a little bit quicker for people, in these situations, which I think people want, and if there's not a need for it, then it helps the whole process.
Anybody else? I'll ask for a motion.
This Moab City Council approved city ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance amending the text of the Moab Municipal Code section 17.08.060 to update the process by which the city grants exceptions to its requirements governing the construction of sidewalk, curbs, and gutters.
Motion by Tawny. Second.
I'll second that.
Second by Miles. Tawny, any discussion from you? No? Miles?
Nope. I'd like to thank planning commission for a well thought out discussion. It made it much easier for me to understand the whole issue and bring it to you guys.
It's nice to have you as our liaison. That's really helpful for us also.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Roll call, Mom.
Aye.
Caitlin? No. Colin?
Aye.
Tawny? Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Caitlin in opposition. Thanks,
Thank
Johanna
you.
and Corey.
Thank
You guys can go now. I think, does Corey need to stay on for close?
I told him I would cover it for
Okay.
closed. So bye, Corey.
All right, so now we ended our general business for this evening, and we will go to city manager updates and then mayor and council reports.
Okay, I just got a quick update for you. I won't steal anybody's thunder, but I will say that I did go to the UMTRA celebration and it was really great. I'll end it there. It was really great because I know other people are going to talk about it. Thank you, Mayor. And the budget finalization the budget this time has gone very smooth. I do want to get a pseudo finance director. As I've told you before, we've had great conversations and have been able to put this budget together with our team. And Summer and Danny and Marcy have all played a huge role in this, but all the department heads as well. And I think your department heads know their budgets really well, which I think is very key to managing a budget. And I think that's really great. Moving forward, we'll look forward to talking to everybody and having conversations, and tweaking is part of the budget process. So we'll look at what comes out of that. I did want to mention that I mentioned earlier that we're looking at a project. Well, we've been looking at a Mill Creek stormwater project for a while from Main Street to 500 West. And really, it's probably a little past 500 West because the city owns the property on Mill Creek past 500 West. But we have received a concept on that, and we are looking at doing a public open house soon. And we encourage people to look forward to that. We'll send out a lot of information on it when we have the date. And we'd love for a lot of people to show up because we do think that this is a regionally significant project. Regionally significant because it touches a lot of different aspects, like the active transportation aspect, parks aspect, storm drainage, and several other things as well. And so we're really looking forward to talking to people about that. We have been focusing on the immediate stakeholders in the area right now, and been talking to landowners down there who live right on the creek or even own part of the creek down there, and therefore part of the storm drainage runoff. And looking forward to continuing those discussions and getting that in front of the council after we do have a public open house. I think I'm going to leave it there.
Thanks, Michael. Moving on to city, mayor and council reports. We'll start with you, Jason.
So if you come up, on April 6th, I attended the Family Support Center open house. And it was great. Also that day I had an airport board meeting, where they talked about, working on doing some refinishing out at the airport, some recoding and stuff, and some big projects still going on at the airport. They said that the EAS contract, which we had a letter of support for today, that the decision would be between 30 and 60 days, and that they thought that the DOT was probably more on the 60-day end of it than the 30-day. So we're probably, I think they said June 1st or something like that would probably be about when we'd have a decision on that. I attended the UMTRA celebration with all of you, which was very well attended, which was great. Had a great time. It was also great being able to spend time with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and talking with them about water issues and how much they helped, get the pile moved, which was great. And I'm sure you guys will have more to talk about with that as well. So I won't talk too much about it, but it was a good couple of days with them. And then today I had a travel council meeting where they did get a new director. Mick Solieta is the new director, which is awesome. He's great. He's been there for a while. He knows what's going on. It's great to have him there. And then they are also working on the next round of grants for events, which are due, I think, June 1st, and then they'll start, going through those and awarding them. I think last cycle they awarded about $80,000 worth of grants to bring activities here, so which is great. And then last week we had Jeep Safari, which was absolutely amazing. Town was hopping, town seemed really busy, but it seemed pretty low key, and now that I said low key, I feel like I have to say there's a lot of cool whips,
And drips.
Yeah, and drips. You're proud of me? That you all right?
Yeah.
But it was
That just went over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sweet whips.
Has so many whips, and I thought town was great. There was a good vibe to it, and it seemed like that it wasn't out of control. I don't know how it went, like law enforcement end of it, but it was just a great week and it really was positive and stuff. So, and that's all I have. So
Thanks, Jason and Tawny.
Okay, on the 26th of March was the Moab Museum's gala. It was really well attended. They sold out. I have not heard final figures about how much money they made, but they had some really unique and interesting items up for auction. Dinner was good company. It was overall success. And I too attended the events for the UMTRA removal. And it was a good couple of days and it was interesting to talk to people, but had the same goals in mind, but from a little bit different point of view. And I also attended a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District on the 9th. And I was so tired. I really don't remember what we talked
We approved the RFP for the maps
about.
project.
We did.
We'll be
did
talking
do
about that on Friday.
And that's it.
Is that it, Tony?
Yeah.
Colin?
Okay, I attended the gala also with Tawny, great event.
Saw your picture.
I saw your picture approved.
That we had just talked Jacques Hadler into spending way too much money on one of the excursions, and we're celebrating his victory in that. Yeah. Really fun event. On April 8th, and April 9th, all of the events leading up to the 16 million ton celebration, really fascinating. And again, the Metropolitan Water District, I mean, just to, the scale of that operation and $2 billion budget. I mean, just it's unbelievably impressive. And to have them sharing our concerns over the Colorado River and just to have them in our corner is really, really impressive. And yeah, great work, Joette, and the years and years that you've put into that project, and what an unbelievable success story. Yeah, in this community. So thank you. On the 11th, this last weekend, we had the 4th annual Spring Spruce Up. It was a wonderful success. There were a lot of staff there. Alexi, thanks for making it out. Lizzie, sorry you didn't make it out after you told me you were. No. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. But we did have about 90 volunteers spread out through about 8 really great projects, 2 within the city, 1 in Rotary Park, and then 1 in Anonymous Park. The project in Rotary Park had like 25 volunteers planting trees and all sorts of shrubs. So it'll be really neat to see that grow into maturity. A lot of great work, and then a lot of great weeding done at Anonymous Park. But I just can't stress enough, I mean, what an amazing partnership the city and Trail Mix have with this project, and we're just going to grow it and grow it and grow it because the model is there, and people were so enthusiastic afterwards and excited about the great work they did with this project. So super proud of that. I had Trail Mix today where we talked a lot about the wayfinding project, where we'll I think we have a meeting in a couple days or tomorrow. And then we also James and Lex, we talked a lot today in Trail Mix about parkway safety, and I think at this point, the Trail Mix committee, which these meetings have about 30 people, and I think about every one of those 30 people now has a story of almost being run down on the parkway, or not feeling safe on the parkway, or avoiding the parkway at certain times, just with the explosion of all the electric devices and stuff. And I know, I've been reassuring people that our police department is on it, and we'll see more enforcement out there and just more presence. And but I just can't stress it much. This electrification that was supposed to save us from ourselves is exploding so fast and evolving so fast, and it's an impossibly moving target, but it is absolutely affecting the feeling of safety as people are moving around this community. And so thank you for all the work you're doing and the work you will do.
Colin, if I could just interject, it's not just on the parkway, it's everywhere. I mean,
It
I've seen these bikes come zooming around the corner,
Yep.
right into the middle of a lane. I mean, somebody's gonna get hurt. And I've even seen little kids on these electric bikes going across Main Street, right across the middle of the road. And anyway, is a concern that I'm starting to notice myself, and I'm not on the parkway that much.
So my personal story, I participated in a bike bus on the 10th on last Friday. That'll be on every Friday. And I was riding a bike against my doctor's orders to just participate in this. And I did it so safely. It moved really slowly, and it was actually easier to ride a bike than it was to walk. And I was patting myself on the back as I was riding back to my home. And I just crossed under 4th East and was riding right by Miles's house. I saw Miles out there. And I was coming along on the right side, and somebody coming again in the opposing direction, probably going close to 30 miles an hour on the parkway, didn't see me until the last minute. After this great success, I veered out into the fence to avoid hitting them. So rammed into the fence on the side of the parkway. He went into the dirt, was able to correct and get back on the parkway. And then I just saw him shoot onto 4th East without ever stopping, and head towards 191. And so, here I am, like smashed up against the fence with a broken leg, trying to hold my bike up. And this guy
On your bike against doctor's orders, don't forget.
Yes. And so it's real, and and I have such an appreciation for how hard it is for you to capture these singular events, but I would love to just see, and I know now that we have the officers who have just been checked out on on their new e-bikes, but I can't stress enough how important it is for public safety to have you out there in the parkway. That's it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caitlin.
On the second, I went to a housing task force meeting. We walked through, Melissa Jeffers at the county has put together housing data dashboard, which is piloted on the county's website. We're told it was pretty easy to find. I still haven't been able to figure out how to route directly to this page on there, but in large part, the work that Corey and Johanna put in to create the structure and how to pull information off of iWorks, Melissa's taken that and kind of created software to create a real pipeline to show kind of what could happen all the way down to what is actually happening and how that aligns with housing goals and projections in the housing plan. So I think we're still workshopping that, figuring out the bugs, figuring out what information is needed, figuring out how city and county will continue to contribute to that over time to make sure it's updated. But I think it's going to be in a really amazing, really easy to read tool for us as elected bodies. And I'm really excited for you guys to see it, which will come potentially, well, it seems like task force is no longer presenting a joint meeting. So, okay.
But I've seen it. It is good.
Yeah.
So
I think it's very cool.
I think it's all our information.
Yeah. It's mostly city information on county websites, or we're trying to get it as a community resource, but
You know how to access it, right? Did I hear you? Because I can forward, Mel sent me something I can forward to you that links you directly to the dashboard.
Yeah,
You
I
want
have
to
I have it directly. In order to communicate to the public, I can't tell you go to grandcountyutah.gov and /
okay.
how.
Okay.
So we're not quite there yet. I do have it, but so that'll be presented when task force presents to council, which is gonna be exciting. There's also a deed restriction committee with the task force that is starting to look at what other communities are doing and see how we can start bringing resources in. There's a website committee that did a lot of work on moabhousing.com. So if you go there, we've added some of the new projects like Lost Springs and Desert Soul Villas and like all of these deed restricted or potentially deed restricted projects that are coming online are starting to be put on there, and it's in a table form instead of like a really long scrolling process. So if you have friends that are looking for housing resources, tell them to go to moabhousing.com. There's a link for What's for Rent Wednesday, and also a much easier page to go through a lot of the rentals in town. So it feels very exciting. Events wise, also sharing from that, CR had their open house in San Juan County on the 26th. They are actually having their restore event on the 18th, and then the Land Trust Aurora Crossing is having a neighborhood-wide yard sale this weekend. So that's task force. On the 6th, I went on COD Talk on KZMU with Johanna from the city and Brian Martinez from the county, talking about kind of what city and county have going on, talking about this dashboard, talking about some of the city's housing goals and what's happening here with the city and where we want to go with some of our strategic housing goals. Brian actually taught me a new word, new phrase, which is ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, employed, as like a new category of like kind of the like workforce or like middle class. So that's interesting. Just gonna start using that. And then on the 7th, I met with, I'm sure many of us received emails from Lost Springs. I did meet with them. We'll see where that goes. We can talk about that. But interesting to talk with them about some of their challenges and try and direct them to moabhousing.com and local marketing sources. Just trying to get the word out. On the 8th, I attended a local homeless council meeting. Miranda was out, so it was a quick meeting. I'd say one of the bigger things from that, pit counts were down, the point in time count was down statewide. And as a response, the Utah State Homeless Services Board decided that they will not be allocating winter overflow funds going into this next year, which I think is pretty devastating. Statewide, I know that that's been a really important resource here for emergency shelter during the winter, especially for places like us that have no place otherwise for people to go except for emergency shelter. So it's interesting. And then kind of today I also attended a quarterly balance of state meeting. They talked a little bit about that and some of the transitions for housing to move to GOEA, or I guess go back to GoEd. Back to GoEd. In July. So big changes coming. And then yeah, finally Amtra. Ditto. Kudos. Yeah, I mean, I think for me is one of those moments of like, wow, I feel so lucky to like be representing the city at this milestone and excited for us to transition into the next phase. So thank you for your decades of work. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Caitlin. Miles.
So I will echo the UMTRA thing. I went to those events as well. Again, congratulations. And like, it was really cool to see a project of that magnitude hit such an important milestone. It's been a fixture in our town for as long as I can remember. And it's pretty amazing to see that all come together and to see how we made that project work. Really nice to meet the guys from the Met. Nice to know that they're interested in the headwaters of the Rio Grande and what they can do to support us. So I want to thank them for coming down here and taking the time. Otherwise, I'm going to be short because most of my committees did not meet in the meantime, but we did have the P&Z meeting. I think I spoke to the discussion of the sidewalk curb and gutter exemption. But there was also a very lengthy discussion on some text change amendments or potential text change amendments to C2 zoning that I think are worth some significant consideration. I'm not sure if the applicant is going to bring that to us or how that's going to go. But basically the applicant was requesting a couple of amendments to how we do parking. Specifically, we've been granting a lot of parking exemption requests to people who are, to businesses that are adjacent to our downtown projects that allow for extra parking. And so it solidified some of that and basically also allowed, when there was a change in use, the parking calculation would essentially, if you had one use and you had this many spaces, those same spaces would apply to the next use regardless of that use. So if that use required more, you'd still have to come up with more. But if you had 9 spaces in the previous office building use, when it became a retail store, you would be credited those 9 spaces because if they existed for the office building, they exist for the retail store. That was all, Planning Commission was on board with that. They were, so C2 has a 25-foot setback and landscaping strip required on C2 zoning, which is pretty considerable, especially for small lot sizes. It leaves certain lots just completely unusable or damn near unusable. So I think there was a very lengthy conversation about exactly how to approach that. The applicant was asking for commercial setbacks or 0 setback. Planning Commission felt that that was not completely appropriate, particularly where C2 bordered residential, because C2 by letter and language is meant to be a buffer between true C3 commercial and residential zoning. So there was a lot of discussion in regards to what we could do to, or, what's coming in the code rewrite and what we can do to make C2 more usable without leaving the intent of C2 behind and without unduly burdening the residential properties that border C2. So I'm curious to talk to you guys more about that, but just kind of wanted to fill you in on that process. I think that's pretty much it for me.
Great, looking forward to that discussion. So we can talk about that in our small groups and then I'm sure it'll be coming before us at some point.
Yeah. It feels, yeah.
All right, thanks, Miles.
You're welcome.
For me, had a meeting with CERTA, long meeting, met with a gal named Laura Hefner. She was here, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and she brought in some senior companions and we gave them, some reward for all the great work that they do. And the senior companion program is now moved to the Grand Center. It used to be under the hospital, but now it's at the Grand Center. Excited about that switch. It seems like they can build on that program a lot more. We're going to have a bigger discussion on Friday at our joint meeting about senior services in general, and then update you guys on where we're at with the MAPS campus. Met with former Mayor Emily Niehaus and Michael and the chief to talk about the speed limit considerations that you guys will have on your agenda at our next meeting. And I think that was a very productive meeting with her, and I know the chiefs followed up with her as well. Met with Commissioner Chair Mel McCandless to kind of talk about the upcoming joint meeting this Friday and a lot of other issues that are occurring with the county that could impact us and how we can work together. The UMTRA deal was a big deal. I appreciate all your comments. Pretty proud of that project to see it finally come to a close. And it was great to have the Metropolitan folks here from Southern California. It's a whole different crew, although the chairman was back here in 2000 and 2004. So he understood the project from the very beginning. When we pulled into the overlook, that Jason was with me and Michael and the whole group, they were just shocked to see 90 feet of dirt gone and the view of the city and the river. So it was a pretty cool experience for me to host them, and particularly former Congresswoman Grace Napolitano. She was really the person that helped keep both sides together on this, and truly was a bipartisan project, and we don't see that much anymore. So hopefully it'll come back someday where we can all work together. But that is a testament about how our community came together and got something done that was pretty much, how are we going to get this done? And we did it. And we did it because we worked together. So we've got to continue that. I had a meeting yesterday with the Arches Shuttle Workshop Group. They invited me to attend and I went. It was a very productive meeting. And then following that meeting, Brian Martinez and I met with Brian Cambria, who is the Bryce Canyon shuttle operators in Bryce Canyon. So that was very, he would happen to be in town, and so it was nicely coordinated for him to be here right after that workshop so we could get some feedback from him. And the bottom line is money. This is all going to come down to funding. I think none of us in this room think that having a shuttle at Arches is a bad idea. But the problem is, and it always has been, is how do we pay for it? And I made it very clear in the workshop that our position as the city is to maintain our MAT transit program. And if there is a way that we could include a shuttle service from downtown to the Arches Visitor Center, that's completely 100% subsidized, and that could help offset some of the costs that we're going to be seeing here in a couple of years with the MAT. That we would be interested in having that conversation. But before we even have that conversation, there needs to be a shuttle system within the park, because there's no bringing people to the visitor center if they can't get into the park. But I just wanted to make it clear that that's the aspect that we're interested in. However they want to get the in-park shuttle system going is really, we want that to happen, but we're not going to be able to participate in that in any capacity, including financial. So there's another meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where that goes. And also, as a reminder, if anybody's interested in the League of City and Towns spring workshop, it's next week, the 22nd through the 24th in St. George. Caitlin's going, I'm going, Michael's going. If anybody else wants to go, follow up with Sasha so that you can get signed up to go. So that's it for me. And we will now go into closed session. We have 3 items. If I could have a motion to go into closed session to discuss reasonably imminent or pending litigation, to discuss sale of real property, and discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
I'll motion to go into closed session
Or
for the discussion of sale and real property,
exchange of real property,
purchase and exchange of real property,
imminent or pending litigation.
and imminent or pending litigation.
Thank you.
I closed my computer too soon.
Motion by Miles, second by Colin. All those in favor say